Chapter 14, Science versus Magic. As the mages from Endelgian enter the room, Provost Lutea hangs back, pressing her hands together and closing her eyes. As the team support mage, she will be tasked with preparing her teammates for battle, protecting them as much as possible, and casting healing spells when necessary. Multiple targeting magic, party boost. Greater protect mind. Detect magic. Detect enchantment. Maximum defense up. Resist break. Resist weakening. Silence immunity. Shield Maiden's prayer. Soften resolve and iron will. Wall of protection bludgeoning. Wall of protection slashing. Wall of protection piercing. Penetrate armor. Clarity of mind. Flashes of light illuminate the room as the mage continues her enchantments. Paranormal intuition. Lion's heart. Multiple vision. Greater luck. Greater full potential. Limit break. Freedom of movement. Band of brothers. Delayed teleportation. Mana absorption. Blessing of Nike. Greater focus. Chain attack, double damage. Greater hardening. Creonle, Deus Ex. Lutea casts spell after spell, using up most of her stamina before the fighting even starts. Sweating heavily and out of breath, she reaches into her satchel and retrieves a potion that returns her stamina back to its maximum before she resumes her preparations. The Doctor and Candy Stripe look on in confusion, still surprised by the sudden appearance of the mages. It's their first interaction with magic users, and they're unsure what to think or how to respond. "What the hell are you?" Candy Stripe growls. "How dare you barge into our business like this?" "Spare us the false outrage," Fordron says, waving Candy Stripe off with a hand. "We've seen the signs of intense battle all around. We know you're not a legitimate operation." "Greater Magic Seal, Aginestra. Greater Magic Seal, Teleport. Greater Magic Seal, Full Guard. Greater Magic Seal, Dukan Heles. Greater Magic Seal, Flash," Lutea continues. The Greater Magic Seal spell allows her to cast a spell in advance of need, and being able to use it later immediately without a charge to her stamina or the time needed to cast. With her party now boosted by many magical effects, Lutea looks over at Masters Forgeron, Bennett, and King. Master King nods in approval and steps forward. "Jake Stewart, we have come to put an end to your murderous rampage. Stand down, or we will be forced to put you down," Master King says. The Doctor is surprised. "They've come for you, not me. It seems as if you've gained an even greater infamy than myself, boy." Looking at the feral Jake, Fordron makes a hesitant grimace. "He looks pretty scary. Are you sure that he's worth saving?" Danny's eyes narrow in confusion as she studies Jake. "It's weird, but that isn't Yamura in control. I've never seen him in this state. He shares some of Yamura's traits and energy, but I'm sure that's just Jake." "Who the hell are you people?" Candy Stripe asks, annoyed by the intrusion. Fordron looks over to Provost Alcine Porter and gives a slight nod. "Subdue that one. She seems to have a temper and will be a hindrance to our efforts." "Ayami Shokan!" The magician begins quickly waving her arms in several semicircles while chanting an incantation. "Kalorm," she says, summoning a cat-sized caterpillar familiar onto her shoulder. "Kimushi! Ituhaku!" The caterpillar familiar chirps excitedly and begins shooting a webbing-like material all over Candy Stripe. The assassin shouts out in surprise and flails about, only ensnaring herself further. The webbing wraps around her tightly until she collapses to the floor, unable to move. "Interesting," the Doctor says. "Are you wizards?" He begins to grin like a child as he meets one of his heroes. "I have heard of the existence of magical abilities, but this is my first time seeing us honest-to-God mages in person." "We'll sign autographs after the show," Master Fordron says, Surrender Jake Stewart to us immediately. I am very interested in dissecting each of you. Magic is one of those areas I have yet to fully understand. I believe that with enough time and experimentation, I could replicate whatever it is that grants each of you your abilities. Are you the one responsible for doing this to Jake? Danny asks angrily. And who might you be, my dear? I thought the boy's only love interest was killed by Hui, the doctor asks. Love interest? Danny says, her voice cracking. Not me. Wait, what are you talking about? Who was killed? A pretty little thing, the doctor grins. Her own brother sacrificed her to become Hui's vessel. Jake had a front row seat to the bloody show, and was powerless to lift a single finger to stop it. It really shook your friend to his core. He's not been the same since. Jake had to watch his girlfriend be murdered in front of him? Of course that would fuck somebody up. I can't imagine the pain he's going through, Danny thinks. Hui's vessel, Master Reginald King whispers. Does that mean there's another Sakari like Yamura running around in a human body? The doctor nods. You are well informed. I would expect no less from one who has figured out the secrets of the arcane. Hui was one of the 4 generals that Queen Yinyana brought with her from their world to conquer this one. Of their number, Hui and Yamura were both sealed away. Now, all 3 of them walk again in this world. Inyana was killed in the Battle of Totikahachi, Master King shouts. You lie! The doctor chuckles. I would not believe it myself if I did not know the contrary. You see, today I have learned a great deal about death and the afterlife. In my awakening to these truths, I have also discovered that there are ways to lessen the permanence of that state of being. Lessen the permanence of death? Fordron whispers. You don't mean... The doctor nods. I am still very early in my discovery, but with time, I am confident that I will be able to rein death in and bend it to my will. You're insane, Danny shouts. No one has power over death. That's not entirely true, Fordron whispers, not wanting to speak of the matter. There are some who have certain magical affinities for advanced spiritual magic. These necromancers are able to manipulate the bodies as well as the souls of the dead. Science, magic, it matters not the path, the doctor says. It is the destination that is of any consequence. Release the boy from whatever control you have over him, and I will put you in contact with people far more knowledgeable in necromancy and the arcane. You can compare notes, Fordron says. Master! Danny shouts, surprised that the magician would even consider negotiating with the doctor. Violence is not always the way to solve a conflict, Fordron explains. There will be times that you will need to choose the more difficult path of mediation. The doctor kneels beside his bodyguard, touching the fibrous webbing. Remarkable. It's actually tangible. I had assumed the basis of magic was rooted in illusion. Get me out of this shit! Candy Stripe shouts, unable to move. The doctor opens up the webbing with a single flash of his scalpel. The doctor rises, throwing his blade towards the nearest mage. As Provocino tilts his head to dodge the scalpel, the doctor rushes in with a small glass vial that he smashes into the mage's face before kicking him in the chest. Sino falls back, being caught by Provost Butler and Lutea. The doctor immediately pivots, flinging several more scalpels at the mages. Provost Lutea's stored teleportation spell activates, and the 3 mages instantly relocate safely across the room. He's fast, Master King observes aloud. Sino begins coughing violently and clutches at his chest. His skin pales, and his veins become more visible. What did you do to him? Fordron growls. I have infected the young man with the GX parasite, a remarkable creature able to grant amazing abilities, the doctor boasts. He will be thanking me for this gift. If he survives. Take that thing out of him now, Fordron shouts. The doctor smiles. Oh, it's too late for that. I'm afraid your friend's fate is now up to natural selection. Candystripe moves quickly during the confusion, driving her thin blade through the sternoclavicle joint of Provost Butler. As the mage falls back, choking on his own blood, Candystripe pivots and thrusts a closed fist into the chest of Provost Zaya Yim. The blow sends the woman sailing backward through several walls. Garuda Nostra! Provost Adaban Zuberi shouts. Aginestra! Danny screams, releasing a powerful fire spell. The two spells combine en route to their target, swirling together and hitting Candystripe in the chest. The assassin screams as she too is driven through several walls. Provost Lutea kneels over Butler, holding her hands to his neck and casting Dukan Heles. Provost Sinnoh trembles, sweating heavily. His hair begins to fall out, and his irises yellow as his pupils transform into slits. The doctor observes the process with a hand on his chin. He's not looking good. If I were you, I would prepare for some friendly fire. Sinnoh releases a primal scream, the skin around his neck, biceps, and chest tearing as a larger muscle frame is constructed underneath. What's happening to him? Master King asks, confused. The GX parasite is finicky. For reasons even I do not yet understand, not all individuals gifted with the parasite are able to adapt to the process and evolve into something greater. A majority of those infected with GX lose their humanity and become mindless brutes known as rejects. Over time, all rejects will eventually die, as the parasite burns through their body with abandon. The doctor explains. Remove it from him, Danny shouts. It's killing him. Yes, it is. The speed at which death occurs varies from host to host, the doctor replies. You heard her, Fordron growls. Remove that thing from his body. Oh, that is quite impossible. There are drugs that can suppress the parasite's growth for a time, but removal is currently beyond our technology. The only case where a GX parasite was killed within the host's body before full symbiosis was with your friend Jake there. Somehow, the other spirit within him provided a means of blocking a successful parasitic bonding. We tried numerous times, but ultimately, he always managed to kill the parasite before it could take control. Scales manifest across Sinnoh's flesh, and he roars loudly, claws emerging from his fingertips and erupting from his boots at the toenails. Dream magic! Stasi Helvatus! Master Bennett chants, paralyzing Sinnoh into a controlled stasis. The magic keeping him asleep should also prevent the parasite from gaining any more ground. We need to get him back to Endelgion immediately. I'll go, Provost Butler says, having been hailed by Lutea. He's my best friend. I have to make sure he survives. How noble, the doctor mocks. But I assure you that none of you are leaving here alive. Go, Danny says, combusting flame magic around her fists. I'll buy you some time to escape. You? You seem to be the greenest of the bunch. And I do mean that quite literally. Did you think I would not be observant enough to notice the rank distinctions based upon your different colored attire? Being the only mage in green, I would wager you are the weakest of the bunch. And how do you know I'm not the leader? I'm the only one in this color, like you said, Danny challenges, visualizing several spell symbols in her mind. The doctor points to Masters King and Forgeron. The way those two carry themselves and bark orders, they are the veterans. My intellect is far too high for you to try and trick me, little girl. Really? Danny grins. Seems that I already have. The doctor looks around to see that Provost Butler and Sinnoh have vanished. Oh, you are good, the doctor laughs. Very sneaky. Thanks, Danny says with a grin. A compliment from someone of your superior intellect is an honor. The teen waves another spell into her fire magic, unknown to the doctor. Mocking me is unwise, but I am curious if you maintain that confidence after becoming infected with the GX parasite like your friend, the doctor cautions. Danny throws a hand out, releasing a fireball. Telegraphing the move, it's easily evaded by the doctor. As the spell explodes against the wall behind the doctor, several magical chains extend out from the explosion. The doctor's eyes widen in surprise as he's wrapped tightly around the waist by the magical chains. The doctor struggles, his arms pinned to his sides. Spells within spells, the doctor observes with irritation. You mages fight with trickery. Zaya screams, leaping at the doctor with an enchanted sword. The doctor quickly utilizes the strength of a Fomorian giant and breaks free of the chains, catching the swordswoman by the throat. Aginestra! Danny shouts, throwing another fireball into the doctor's back. The man stumbles, dropping Zaya. The mage immediately springs out of the way of the doctor's reach. Thanks, Zaya whispers. I thought he had me there. The doctor winces, his back now singed with black. That one stung a little. Smooth scales materialize across the doctor's skin once more, for added protection against fire. I will have to be more careful from this point on. Focus, Master King shouts. Cast enhancement magic immediately. These opponents have faster reaction speeds and reflexes than we do. The doctor begins to laugh. Do you understand that coming here was folly? All you've done is sacrifice your lives. Jake Stewart will become my greatest triumph. No warrior will ever match him in combat after my enhancements are implemented. With my recent discovery of revenants, I will transform the boy into an undead killing machine without equal. You can't, Danny screams. He's already been through enough. Science cannot be stopped due to misfortune. His sorrows do not concern me at all. Alcine orders her caterpillar familiar to attack again, but the doctor moves past her with superior speed. Blood sprays out from both of the young woman's shoulders, and her familiar is split in half. Green liquid oozes out onto the mage and the floor before the defeated familiar explodes into tiny sparkles of light. Alcine slowly turns, muttering a healing spell to recover her wounds. Curative ability as well? The doctor muses. That must come in very handy. I have tinkered with healing powers with some of my experiments, but it tends to be more akin to a hyperactive regenerative body rather than selective healing. Ayami Shokan! Alcine shouts, drawing several intricate circles in the air. Senpais, I need you! An enormous human-sized centipede emerges from a glowing summoning circle on the floor near us, Alcine. The centipede familiar lunges for the doctor, but Candy Stripe intercepts. Like the caterpillar before it, the centipede too is cleaved in two. Alcine drops to a knee, her stamina depleted severely after losing two familiars. Dukan Helez, Provost Marcelo Lutea chants, consuming Alcine in a bright blue glow. Alcine stands, feeling her strength returning. Thank you, Alcine says. She glares at Candy Stripe and the doctor. You're going to regret that. Master King puts a hand in front of Alcine's chest, stopping her. Hold on. They want to fight us 2-on-1, so we shall fight with 2 as well. What should we do? Danny asks Forgeron. The Master Mage eyes switch and Jake with concern. We continue to observe and prevent these two from joining in the festivities. Master King makes several hand gestures before uttering the incantations to begin his combat spell. Beast Soul, Leo, he says, the ghostly visage of a lion superimposing itself over his body. King growls and leaps at the doctor with phantom elongated claws. The doctor twists and turns as he backpedals, evading each of the lethal strikes. That is a very interesting ability, the doctor says, still dodging. What exactly are you doing? Your movements seem inhuman and hard to predict. When using Beast Soul, I can take on the powers of any animal of my choosing, King says with a growl. The doctor evades King's next strike and whips his scalpel across the mage's front. Blood sprays outward and King leaps back to create some distance between them. Beast Soul, Cobre, King chants, changing his hand gestures and taking on the powers of a deadly cobra as its ghostly form falls over him. Now much faster and more precise with his attacks, the Master Mage is now able to land several blows and stagger the Doctor. A single bead of crimson runs from the corner of the Doctor's mouth. Your combat abilities change according to each new empowerment, he observes. King lunges with a knife-hand strike, but the Doctor catches him by the wrist. Beast Soul, Russo, King shouts, taking on the power of a bear. The Doctor quickly slashes the tendons in King's arm and narrowly avoids, cutting through the mage's throat as he falls back. Your abilities are formidable, but you have the handicap of having to cast your spell, while I am able to move and attack freely. Without surprise on your side, you will not be able to overcome my enhancements, the Doctor explains. Alcine evades several slashes from Candy Stripe, before enveloping herself in a magical aura. Bisoro, Armadura, she chants, condensing a keratinized suit of protected armor over her body. Like the shell of a beetle, the mage's armor protects her from the assassin's strikes. Candy Stripe grows frustrated as each of her attacks are deflected. There must be flaws in that armor, Candy Stripe thinks. If I can exploit those weak points, I might be able to end this fight. False. Kamakiri, Alcine says, conjuring two praying mantis-inspired blades in her hands. She and Candy Stripe collide, weapons clashing violently. As the two battles progress, Switch carefully studies the magicians, who merely stand watch. Does he spook you so much that none of you are going to help your friends out? Switch asks. Master King is more than capable of handling your boss. Our aid is not necessary, Fordron says. Is he the strongest of your group? Switch continues prodding for information that could be of use. If you must know, that honor would belong to myself, Fordron boasts. But you will all be defeated without me ever having to step in. You're the strongest, huh? Switch mutters to himself. Sounds like you'll be the best choice. The best choice for what? Fordron asks, narrowing his eyes in suspicion and concern. Master, be careful, Provost Lutea cautions. The previously cast spell, Paranormal Intuition, gives her a sixth sense that Switch's abilities pose a greater threat to them than they know. I sense much deviousness from him. King manages to catch the Doctor across the face with a bare-infused, hard right. The blow sends the man across the room and allows Jake even more freedom of movement. The team springs forward, catching the magicians off guard and slashing Provost Zuberi up his center with transformed Sakari claws. Blood erupts from the vertical wound, spraying out like a damaged garden hose. Before the others can react, Jake pivots and rakes his claws down across Provost Lutea's throat. The damage is less than fatal only due to Lutea's previous casting of wall protection slashing. She holds a hand against her neck to slow the bleeding, then uses the stored healing magic spell on herself and crawls towards Zuberi to do what she can to get him back on his feet as quickly as possible. Contain him! Fordron screams, seeing his team members fall with little resistance. Switch slides up beside Fordron with a hand on his shoulder. Transferencia Urdat. Before the mind transfer can occur, Master Cyrus Bennett hits the GX-enhanced warrior with a pulse of magical energy from his free hand. Strange, Fordron whispers. I have felt as though I was being pulled from my body. Stay alert, Master Bennett shouts, blocking Jake's attacks with circular energy shields. We don't know what our enemies are capable of. Jake, Danny shouts, stop this! Jake turns with a growl and leaps at Danny, only to be kicked aside by Master Bennett. Your friend is gone. Now focus on subduing the monster that has taken over him. Candy Stripe ducks beneath one of Alcine's blades and thrusts her own assassin's stiletto through one of the joints where her armor connects between her arm and chest. Alcine freezes, spitting up a mouthful of blood and turning immediately pale. Finally, Candy Stripe says with relief, pushing her blade all the way in and kicking the mage to the floor. I found a soft spot. Alcine screams in agony as Candy Stripe kneels on her chest and pulls the blade free. Let's see. There are bound to be other spots just as vulnerable. The assassin pierces the same joint on the opposite side of the mage's body, resulting in more pained screams. Provost Lutea holds a hand out and immediately releases the stored Aginestra fire spell from her reserve. The spell hits Candy Stripe in the side and knocks her off balance. Zuberi casts Garuda Nostra, blasting the assassin against the wall with wind magic. Candy Stripe quickly crawls to her feet and runs at the mages. Surprisingly, her speed is greater than her opponent's, and Candy Stripe is able to maneuver around Zuberi and deliver several strikes to the chest and ribs without him being able to cast any spells in retaliation or to counter. Candy Stripe pivots, rushing at Lutea. The mage's stored full guard spell activates. The mage is able to block Candy Stripe's attack with a magical wall of energy. The assassin sneers, hopping backwards before turning her attention back to Alcine. Stay away from her, Lutea growls. And what are you going to do about it? Candy Stripe laughs. I haven't seen an offensive maneuver from you yet. She doesn't need to, Zuberi growls, hitting Candy Stripe from behind with another wind spell. She has us for that. Damn you, Candy Stripe growls, wiping blood from her lips. You holding up? Zuberi asks. Lutea nods. I still have plenty of magic power left. Good. We're going to need something extra to win this fight. She's way faster than us. Candy Stripe rushes them, but Lutea casts a second level of the spell Freedom of Movement, stacking atop the one previously cast and the Creonle 2 spell. The two mages' speed increases dramatically, and they're able to evade the assassin's advances. Magic is nothing more than a workaround of real strength, Candy Stripe growls. You are both weak, but you're able to imitate the feats and strengths of your betters. It disgusts me. Well, good thing we aren't here for your approval, Zuberi says. The girl is the one who's boosting the others, Candy Stripe thinks. If I can take her out, the others will not be able to fight nearly as well. Imbued with the strength and ferocity of a gorilla, Master King charges at the doctor. The doctor flings several scalpels into his thighs and chest. But as a raging primate, he does not feel the pain enough to slow down. Fists crack against the doctor's skull, driving him to his knees. Even with all of his enhancements, he's unable to fully withstand the pure bestial power of Master King's magic. Using the strength of a Fomorian giant, the doctor catches King's fists as they continue to try and pummel him. Blood running from his nose and ears, the doctor screams in fury and exertion as he throws the mage backwards. The doctor leans forward, trying to catch his breath. All of my otherworldly enhancements, and you find greater power in simple animal mimicry, he mutters, trying to find humor in the setback. Master King takes a deep breath and switches from Gorilla Soul to something different. Beast Soul, charging Rhino. The spirit of a two-horned living tank overtakes the Master Magician. He runs at the doctor, tearing up the floor with his added force. The doctor throws his hands out, sparkles of energy like glitter scattering from his fingertips. Fey nullification, he says, causing Master King's beast soul magic to disappear. Grinning, the doctor extends several Yakashi tentacles from beneath his lab coat to slap the mage across the room. Even your magic has its weaknesses. Master King crawls to his feet and wipes the blood from his lips with the back of his hand. You adapt fast. One would never think that this is your first time fighting a magic user. Superior intellect trumps relying on supernatural powers every time, the doctor arrogantly boasts. And yet you also rely on supernatural powers. You would be nothing without your enhancements. My intellect led me to my abilities. What did you do to earn your powers? Read them in a book? Some other great mind developed your abilities long ago, and you merely capitalize off their achievements. Master King takes on the magical aura of a massive Tyrannosaurus Rex. I developed this magical technique myself, he shouts, slapping the doctor from across the room with a large, projected tail. The doctor stops himself from hitting the wall with an exertion of force from his aura. It seems as though this will be a battle of geniuses, after all. Master King runs at the doctor, but before he can attack, sparkles of Fey anti-magic cancel his spell. Without pause, King immediately focuses on conjuring elemental flames in his hand, and slams an Agnestra fireball into the doctor's chest. As the doctor is propelled back, King uses Beast Soul Kangaroo to balance on a phantom tail in order to kick the doctor with both feet. The doctor crashes through a wall and tumbles into the hallway. King runs through the wall, switching to Gorilla Soul, and grabbing the doctor by the head and running him through another wall. Screaming, the doctor throws his arms out with Fey anti-magic and dispels the Beast Soul magic before striking Master King with a flurry of fast punches to the chest and ribs. The mage absorbs the blows and drops an elbow down onto the top of the doctor's head before screaming as the spirit of a ram overtakes him. Master King hits the doctor with a devastating headbutt that nearly blasts him out of the entire building. The doctor staggers to his feet, disoriented, as Master King charges him with another headbutt at full speed. Quickly using anti-magic, the doctor dispels the ram soul and kicks King across the face, sending him crashing into a cabinet of glassware. The doctor's chest heaves with exhaustion. I never imagined this is how today would end up. Learning of undead creatures fighting against Yamura, and now, battling to the death with a group of magicians. Master King stands up, trying to shake off the damage and ignore the pain. He knows he can take more punishment, and must save his stamina for battle. Healing can come later. Beast Soul, charging Rhino, he shouts, stomping the floor and shaking the entire building. The doctor stumbles and King charges into him with a hard tackle that takes his breath away. The two fighters explode from the side of the clinic, plummeting to the street below. Phantom wings appear behind Master King, preventing him from falling. Beast Soul, Falco! The doctor also sprouts wings, stopping himself only a few feet from the pavement. Anything your magic can do, I can accomplish with my science, he growls. Restrainta! King shouts, wrapping mystical chains around the doctor's wrists and ankles. He quickly lands and uses Beast Soul Gorilla to punch the doctor back into the clinic's lobby. The doctor moans, crawling through broken glass and trying to stand. King drops onto his back with both feet, driving a horrific shriek of pain from the man. Master King pounds his fists against the doctor, beating him to a bloody pulp. Unable to concentrate through the pain to fight back, the doctor's GX parasite instinctively takes control of the battle. King is suddenly knocked back by several hardened spear-like growths that extend from the doctor's back and shoulders. Scales manifest across the doctor's exposed flesh, and he stands unnaturally without changing his position from prone. Sharp fangs extend from the man's mouth, and his eyes become yellowed, with thin black slits for pupils. Snarling, the doctor extends dagger-like claws from his fingertips. Saliva drips from the doctor's jaws, and smoke rises up from the floor where it hits. Due to the rare alpha lizard's DNA that he possesses, the doctor's saliva is highly corrosive and venomous. You have surrendered your prized intellect for a mindless increase of strength, King says. How quick you are to abandon what you treasure the most when things do not go your way. The doctor blinks several times, reverting his eyes back to normal. He calms slightly, gaining some control over his parasitic transformation. There is truth to your words. I should never allow my mind to be second to any force or power. Master King surrounds himself with the spirit of the gorilla. Then shall we continue? The doctor transforms both arms into massive, highly muscular reptilian appendages, and extends more hardened growths from his back and shoulders. 2 sharp horns grow straight back from his skull, resembling those of a dragon. Can your magic handle the full power of the GX parasite? He is using the same thing that he infected Pravicino with, Master King thinks. If I can come up with a way to counter this power, I might be able to cure Sinnoh of his affliction as well. Nullification field, Master King says, surrounding his body with a white glow. Damage conversion, health up. Iron defense. Reverse of reverse, silence. Creonle Deus Ex. Lion's Heart. Greater luck. Blessing of Nike. Clarity of mind. Paranormal intuition. Delayed magic Dukan Helez. Delayed magic teleport. Delayed magic mirror wall. You can prepare all you like. Nothing will be enough to defeat me. Master King smiles. Then I shall continue if I have your permission. I cannot look down such a gracious gesture. I have to choose very carefully what I expend the rest of my stamina on, Master King thinks. All of these spells are meant for a quick push for victory. If my opponent is able to outlast me, I will have few options remaining. I have to ensure that this battle does not drag on. Impatience of Kronos, Master King chants, casting a powerful spell that limits the time a battle can go on. Because the Doctor is so resourceful and has so many unique abilities, the Master Magician fears he may not be able to overcome him before running out of stamina. A phantom clock manifests above them, counting down from 10 minutes. What is that? The Doctor asks, staring up at the clock. It is my assurance of victory. If our battle does not have a clear winner in 10 minutes, both of our lives will become forfeit to the god of time, King says. A heavy price to wager, the Doctor says. Either you are very confident or very desperate. Keep talking, King says. The clock is ticking.